Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Justin Cutler, and I'm the Film Commissioner of Ontario at Ontario Creates, and I want to welcome you all to the first Ontario Green Screen Community Meeting. Before we get started today, I think it's important that we pause and acknowledge the land that we're gathered on as a traditional meeting place for the many Indigenous peoples of Turtle Island. Ontario Creates office exists in Toronto upon the land of the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa and the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We acknowledge that these nations are the original stewards, caretakers, and knowledge keepers on this land, and the original storytellers. We are privileged to work, live, create, and convene here. So joining me on screen today, we have Marcia Douglas, who is the Senior Director of Business Affairs at the CMPA and the Ontario Green Screen Industry Co-Chair, as well as Chris Dunn, Production Consultant at Ontario Creates, and Cynthia Lynch, who is the Managing Director and Counsel at Film Ontario. I'd also like to recognize our 18 Ontario Green Screen Advisory Committee members who have generously supported this initiative with their time, their expertise, and generous financial support. Without this dedicated group, this program would not be possible. So we have a few other special guests joining us today that I just wanted to highlight. We're also going to have producers Jo Winkler from Why the Last Man Standing and Marianne Waterhouse from Netflix's Night Books here to talk a bit about what they're doing on their projects towards sustainability, as well as Mona Ruff, who is the sustainability consultant also working on Why the Last Man Standing. We're also thrilled to have such a great turnout for this inaugural meeting. Well, it's unfortunate that we're not able to meet in person and we are kind of limited to this online conversation. I'm also really pleased that we're able to host so many people from across the province, and we officially just hit 100 people for this call. So I really want to thank everyone for taking their time to join this call in such a busy time in kind of everyone's lives. You know, and I really, looking at our attendee list, we're encouraged that there's representatives from all areas of the industry and key government positions from both the municipal and the provincial levels. You know, in fact, we have key creatives, technicians, performers, regional film officers, production service companies, unions, trade organization representatives, producers, academic institutions, post-production companies, VFX companies, and film festivals all on this call. So thank you so much. We also have special guests here from British Columbia representing Creative BC and the Green Spark Group. And you know, both of these organizations are leaders in creating real sustainable action for the film and television industry in Canada. And we've collaborated so closely with them over the last few months really to get this initiative off the ground. So thank you to those folks for joining us as well. So generally speaking, the OGS community meetings will be a space for film workers to come together to discuss best practices and resources around improving our industry and creating really a more responsible growth pattern for the industry. We're really going to try to have these meetings be focused on specific topics going forward, whether that be waste reduction or the reduction of single-use plastics, et cetera, et cetera. But for today's agenda, we really wanted to give you all a sense for how this initiative came to be. We want to give you an overview of our actions thus far and some of the resources that we already have ready for you to use as film workers working in Ontario. Cynthia is going to present some of our poll results and talk a little bit about how those results and are going to feed into our strategic plan building process. Mary Jo, Mona, and Marianne are here to speak, as I mentioned earlier, about best practices on their current productions. And I think they'll have an opportunity to focus on how they're even making a difference during COVID and the status that we're in right now. We'll also have time for a community discussion at the end. We have about 15 minutes for that. But please don't feel limited to waiting to that point to ask questions. Feel free to post comments in the chat or in the question and answer window. And we'd also encourage anyone who has any great resources to share, any links to share that through the chat. And what we'll do is save the chat afterwards and ensure that that gets back to all of you, or we'll post it on our Ontario Green Screen website for future access. We'll also kind of round up the meeting with a few next steps for how the community meetings will move forward as well. One other housekeeping note is just that we are recording this session so that we can put this up on YouTube for folks that weren't able to make it. So we'll be posting that through the Ontario Creates social channels. And before we kind of jump into the background of the program, I also wanted to recognize that the last few months have been really challenging for all of us. COVID-19 has posed so many barriers and concerns within the industry, and your collaborative spirit and resilience throughout this time has resulted really in what has proven to be an incredibly successful, safe reopening of our industry, and really truly a very strong end of year for all aspects of production, post-production, animation, etc. So I do want to congratulate everyone for working so hard throughout this time. But we're also mindful that this has brought forward certain limitations for sustainability and new challenges to face. And so the committee is very much focused on addressing some of these issues and also looking forward to your feedback on how to address those topics to make a difference even in this difficult time. So quickly, just a little bit of background about Ontario Creates and the initiative. Ontario Creates is an economic development agency of the Ministry of Heritage, Sport, Tourism and Culture Industries. We're a catalyst for growth across all creative industries. We offer tax credit administration for all of the cultural industry tax credits. We offer market research to film professionals, cultural industry funding for virtually every media sector, as well as Ontario Film Commission services. The Film Commission is really the lead and inward investment arm for film and television in the province of Ontario. We attract and retain both foreign and domestic production investment in the province. And we've always been very proud of the fact that 50% of our production is domestic and 50% is foreign. I think that balance is really quite critical for Ontario. We are, we promote the province through our location library. We have production consultants that work with studios, producers to provide them with jurisdictional advice. And we also work on a number of capacity building initiatives for the industry, focused currently on studio space development, workforce development, and most relevantly, environmental sustainability. So to give you a bit of background about this program, the conversations for the Ontario Green Screen Initiative started in 2019. There were a number of interested industry stakeholders that approached Ontario Creates, who were all working on various really interesting initiatives, and they all kind of came to us with the same message that we need some kind of consolidated approach to sustainability going forward for the industry. And that was really exciting for us, and it was something that we were thinking about already. And just to know that there was this grassroots groundswell of interest and activity made it really easy for us to kind of move forward with having some working group meetings to talk about this issue. And all the unions and all of the trade orgs and producers, production service companies were able to come to the table. And that eventually morphed into an advisory committee, which formally took shape in the summer. So I'm going to pass it over to Marcia Douglas to tell you a little bit about how we move forward from the summer and where we're at right now.
Yeah, and I just want to also welcome everyone here. It's very exciting. I love that there's already conversation and links flying around in the chat. And that's why we're all here, because we're all part of this and we're all part of the change. And I think my joke this morning was, and it's not funny, but if you're breathing, you need to care about this. It affects all of us and it affects the future. And there's a lot that we can do as an industry. And that is an opportunity for everyone, no matter what their role is. And I just want to highlight, and Chris will go through this in the deck a little bit more about the partners, but it really is unique. Not the only one, but to build this kind of initiative together between Ontario Creates and the industry itself. And so all of the partners who are coming together as part of the industry advisory are contributing funds to help this initiative go forward, because it's really important. And that's a lot in light of everything that's going on. And it's not a lot of money, so what we can all put forward relative to what our organizations do, but it is so vital that we're all part of figuring out what this looks like and being part of positive change. And also, you know, part of this initiative is recognizing the hard work that's already been happening, because I don't want to forget how much different productions or some of the different labor groups or organizations and suppliers have already been leading the way on this. Well, the initiative is trying to bring everyone together with a consolidated effort to build on this and to help scale it across all of Ontario. So outside of, we sort of launched in September, actually, is when we actually launched the initiative itself. And I think you briefly mentioned this earlier, but we're working towards a strategic plan for the organization, which we're hoping to announce in the new year. In the interim, and Chris will get into this more in a minute too, we're actually looking for a program manager to come in and help lead the work of the initiative in the next little while. But we're really excited to be here today. And it was very important to us to hear from everyone and from the community itself about things to consider. And I just want to say, it's not just about live action production or just physical production. You know, we want this to be a discussion about post, about animation, about the suppliers, about the supply chain. Where are the opportunities? And that really comes to all of you who are doing this work day to day, to think about what ideas you might have and what we can build on. So I'm now going to turn it over to Chris, who's going to walk us through a little bit more detail in terms of what Ontario Green Screen is.
Thanks so much, Marcia. Hi, everyone. Thanks very much for joining as well. It's my privilege to be here today to talk to you about Ontario Green Screen, and for those of you that aren't familiar with what we have been working on in the last year, pretty much. I'm going to give you an overview of what Ontario Green Screen is and where we're heading. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and I'll give you a little bit of a sense of what we're doing. There we go. Can everybody see that? Great. Okay. So welcome. So this is a very short presentation, but I'm going to go over a lot of the key points of Ontario Green Screen and how it came to be and where we're planning on going. So the agenda for this presentation, we'll talk about the hidden truths and the realities, the opportunity that we have as an industry and as an initiative, governance, our partners, and advocates as well. And then we'll go over some timelines, and then we'll talk about the Ontario Green Screen direction and some training resources. And then what I'd like to do as well is give you a bit of a demo on what some of our website resources as well, and how to find some useful things for you. So the hidden truth is that on average, a large scale production, you can expect that fuel consumption can fill an average car tank over 11,000 times. And the waste generated equates to the weight of 313.5 blue whales, and energy consumption for one production could power Times Square for 5 days. That's just for one production. So the amount of emissions and waste is significant. And you multiply that with the number of productions that are happening, you know, not only in Ontario, but globally, the impact is very real. The reality is that with growing consumer demands for high quality and bingeable content, film and TV, SVOD, feature, production, waste is only going to rise. And with that, you know, we look at Ontario, and production in Ontario over the past 20 years has grown steadily. Studio infrastructure is set to double. And you know, global content spending commitments grow larger and larger year over year, and so do greenhouse gas emissions. So we really need to be at the forefront and try to make some significant changes within our industry, which are possible. So the opportunity is that Ontario Green Screen could be seen as the central hub that's going to engage and educate and provide the tools that are necessary for the industry to help reduce their emissions. And with that, we can help foster growth in communities communities that are looking to implement sustainable choices in production, and educate and provide the necessary tools for the industry to make sustainability part of their daily workflow practices. We can also help implement strategies and provide best practices that can be used at all levels of the industry. So from early stage development to post-production, to emerging productions, to large tentpole productions. We all have a part to play in this. So Ontario Green Screen has come to fruition based on all of the challenges that are out there. Our mission through Ontario Green Screen is to develop the tools and resources that will help empower Ontario's film and television industry to adopt environmental sustainable best practices that will reduce the environmental impact of the film and TV industry. And we envision a robust industry that thrives through its commitment to environmental stewardship, which is made possible by non-political partnerships of industry stakeholders and government partners from across the province. And we'll touch on those partnerships in just a couple of minutes. So partners. So as Justin was mentioning earlier, we're very excited to have such an amazing group of partners that are on board with us for the inaugural year of Ontario Green Screen. And I would like to just mention all of them for the purpose of the people who are on their phones and might not be able to see this slide. But we have Actor Toronto, City of Brampton, Cinespace Film Studios, CMPA, DGC Ontario, Entertainment Partners, Film Ontario, IATSE 411, IATSE 667, IATSE 873, City of Mississauga, Pinewood Studios Toronto, Quadrant Motion Pictures, SIM, Spin VFX, the City of Toronto, Unifor NABET, and William F. White. So without these dedicated and engaged partners, Ontario Green Screen wouldn't be where we are today. So it's with tremendous thanks that these partners have come on board for the first year and hopefully for many years to come. We have our provincial partners, but we also have Canadian and international collaboration partners, and we're really excited to have been working over the last few months with Creative BC, Real Green, and Green Spark Group. In that fold as well, Manitoba Film and Music has come on board with sustainable production practices by means of Creative BC. And so we're really excited to be working with multiple jurisdictions with the Green Screen initiative. And all of this, of course, stems from the Albert suite of programs and initiatives out of the UK. So with all of this international and domestic partnerships, we are truly moving in the right direction. Now, moving in the right direction brings us right back to set as well. And without having dedicated people on set and on the ground to help us kind of portray that message across to the industry, the initiative will have some challenges. But we have developed an ambassador program that will allow people to kind of be the voice and the name of Ontario Green Screen as we work through our various initiatives. If you're interested in becoming an ambassador, please feel free to send me an email and we can discuss further. But basically, the ambassador program is set out as such. So if you meet 3 of these 4 different tasks or initiatives, then you can be an Ontario Green Screen ambassador. So if you've attended climate and sustainable production training, at least one climate and sustainable production training course, then that would be great. You attend the OGS community meetings, which we're all doing right now, so that's fantastic as well. And for those who have subscribed to the OGS newsletter, we're still in the process of developing that newsletter out, and we're hoping to have our first edition of the newsletter coming out in the new year. But I am compiling a list of interested individuals who want to be part of that newsletter. So please let me know if you're interested in being on that distribution list. And the other one is if you're an advisory committee member. So if you have 3 out of those 4, then you could become an ambassador, and we'd be really, really happy to speak to you about what that entails and how we can all work together to kind of help make sustainable choices part of our regular workflow. So in terms of timelines, this slide deck will just give you a sense of where we have been and where we're heading. So in early 2019, a sustainability working group was assembled to talk about the issues that were coming up in relation to sustainability in the issue. In March of 2020, the Ontario Green Screen Advisory Committee was formed, and Ontario Green Screen licensed climate sustainable production training tools and resources from Creative BC and Real Green. In June of 2020, we soft launched the sustainable production training course modules, and then we developed our governance and operational procedures for the advisory committee group. In September of 2020, we officially launched Ontario Green Screen, and our website went live. We rolled out the climate sustainable production training throughout the province, and then we also launched carbon calculator training province-wide as well. In November, December, where we're sitting right now, we have finalized and posted a procurement bid to hire a program manager that Marcia had mentioned earlier. And that procurement is currently open right now. And based on how busy the industry in Ontario has been over the last few months and all of the challenges that we've been facing through COVID, we have decided that the deadline for the procurement is going to be extended an additional week. So currently our deadline is set for November the 30th, which is next Monday, but we're extending that out an additional week with some clarifications on the procurement bid to December the 7th. So if you're interested in finding out more about the program manager, the ITQ, which is the invitation to quote, you can visit our website at www.ontariocreates.ca. And in the About Us tab, you'll find a link to a call for applications. You can also send me an email, and I'm happy to chat with you about the process. So in later December, we are planning on hiring and onboarding that program manager to get them up to speed. And in January 2021, we're going to be finalizing our Strat Plan. Strat Plan we've been doing some preliminary work on developing that. And we're hoping to get some input and feedback from the program manager to finalize what the Strat Plan will look like. In January 2021, we'll also be implementing short-term key initiatives that are identified in that Strat Plan. And then for the next 12 months, from April 21 to April 22, we'll be implementing longer-term initiatives, continually engaging with the community through open community meetings, which we're planning on doing, hosting them every quarter. And we're going to expand on climate sustainable production training and other resources so that they're more tailored for specific areas within the industry. So the Ontario Green Screen direction. So since our inception, the advisory committee has been busy implementing and investigating a number of practical areas to focus on. So as I've said before, climate and sustainable production training has been at the forefront of what we've been doing, and that's delivered now and it's ongoing. Carbon calculation tool is delivered now, and that's ongoing as well. And then we're going to be looking into developing and expanding on food waste reduction programs throughout the province, plastic reductions initiatives, paper saving measures, sustainable lockup initiatives, energy efficient tech and power solutions, and carbon certification eventually. So that's the general direction that we're moving towards, which will be defined in more detail through this strategic plan. In this slide, I just want to give you more information about our training offerings that we have. So climate and sustainable production training is a 3-hour course that can be taken online. And it focuses primarily on the key elements of climate science and how to implement sustainable best practices into daily workflow. The cost is free, and it's facilitated by a selection of fantastic facilitators from GreenSpark Group, who are very knowledgeable in climate science and production practices and how to implement the best practices into your daily workflows. So the takeaways from this course is significant and quite amazing. We've just posted some new dates on our website for training. So we have a date set for December the 3rd, December the 19th, and January the 3rd. And I'm really happy to say that since we launched our program, we've certified over 120, we've issued 120 certificates to people who have taken the training so far. With the carbon calculator training, it's a 1-hour training course, and the carbon calculator tool it's a user-friendly platform that allows multiple productions to be tracked at any given time. It's a comprehensive tool that will track all of your inputs, all of your carbon waste and materials and such. The cost for this training session is free as well. And there will be new dates that are coming out in January 2021. There is a new version of the carbon calculator and an international calculation tool that is being developed right now by Albert in the UK. And that will be launched in January 2021, and at which time we'll be implementing some additional training sessions for anybody that's interested in taking those training courses. And then since our launch, we've trained 9 Ontario production professionals in carbon calculation. So another aspect of what we do at the Film Commission, because some people might not be as familiar with all of the resources that are available to you. So I just wanted to give you a rundown of what potentially is available. So we offer a wide range of services to industry professionals worldwide. First and foremost that we're speaking about today is Ontario Green Screen. So this is your central hub for sustainable best practices, training, tools. And then we have the Ontario Production Guide. So this guide offers quick filterable search results for production services, vendors, and then it also includes a green vendors filter capability, which I'm going to do a little bit of a demo after this presentation to show you where to find that and how to get through, how to navigate through the website. Another value add that we have is our ready to roll website pages. And this is a one-stop resource for producers for up-to-date information and resources on COVID-19, latest updates on COVID-19 and how this is affecting the film and TV sector. Lots of Q&As in that web page as well. Lots of links to ministry websites for further clarification. So if you have any questions about PPE and about travel restrictions or any of those types of questions, the Ready to Roll website is the place that you can get all of that information. And then finally, the digital location library. So this library houses, I believe it's over 10,000 unique images of potential locations for filming in the industry. We provide customized scouting services for domestic and foreign producers who are considering Ontario as their production jurisdiction. We can create location packages for producers, their scouting services. There's a whole suite of opportunities that are there for producers, and there are production consultants that are dedicated to assisting you in your production needs. So if you have any questions, you can be reaching out to Doug Till, Janice Reed Johnston, or Mark Fiorentino in the States, down in the LA office. So OntarioGreenscreen.ca is our website, and for the Ontario Film Commission, you would type in Ontario Film Commission as a Google search, or you can go to digitallibrary.ontariocreates.ca. So this is the part where I'm going to give you a quick demo, and hopefully you can see my screen. Okay, so this is the Ontario Film Commission website. The navigation tabs at the top of the page are pretty straightforward and easy to find. But I wanted to bring your attention to the Ontario Production Guide. So this is where you can find any of your location support services at a really quick and easy template. So Doug Till is the marketing consultant who manages the production guide. And right underneath the main page here, you have quick links that go into specific categories within the production guide. So if you're looking for a longer list of studio warehouses, for example, or location supports, I'll just click into studio warehouses and sets. This will bring up all of the listings that we have for studio warehouses. And within that, you'll see that there's all kinds of detailed information on the square footage and any relevant information. And we'll click into this one here, Dixie Road Studios. It will come up with a map, the category, the type, and then below it will provide some descriptions of the location of the service, and then the primary contact and all of that information. So that's a quick way to search for specific categories. If you were interested in finding out specifics about, say, location services, you could click here on the left-hand side in the filter boxes for location services, but we're looking for location services that offer green services. So we'll click on this link here, and this will bring up all of the location services that are offering green services as vendors or suppliers. So the first one that comes up here is Clean Sweep Sanitation. So if we click into Clean Sweep Sanitation, you'll notice that we get the same profile. We get the map, we get the address, the category, all of that. The website is listed, the description, and then what green services that this company provides. So this is the functionality for you to be able to figure out quickly what green services are potentially available to you as a producer. I'm not sure why that went into error there. So bear with me for a second. Okay, can everybody still see that? Okay. So now I want to take you very, very quickly. I'm running out of time here to go through the Ontario Green Screen. This is our main website for Ontario Green Screen. We've got our About Us tab. This is training. It's where you can find all of the training for the climate sustainable production training sessions that we have, and you just click into these links here to get to the training sessions. We have carbon calculator training. We're building out case studies that will continually be populating throughout the website as we grow. And there's community building, which is where we will be posting the live video for this meeting, and resources, and our ambassadors and partners. And we have a listing of all of our linkable partners that go to their respective homepages for their websites. So that is the end of my tutorial walking through the website. If anybody has any questions whatsoever about Ontario Green Screen, feel free, please, to reach out to me, and I'll put this on the main page. So you can reach out through, sorry for this for everybody. Oh dear. There we go. So www.ontariogreenscreen.ca. Our general email is ogsinfo@ontariocreates.ca, and my email address is cdunn@ontariocreates.ca. Thanks very much for your time. Sorry for the technical glitches, but I hope you have all the information that you needed. And I'm going to hand it over now to Cynthia Lynch, who's going to talk to you about the survey results.
And Chris, if I may, we received 2 questions through the chat that I think should probably be addressed here. Actually, it's rather from the question and answer window. The first question was, with mandatory COVID protocols in place, we're seeing some more waste, disposable cutlery, packaging, PPE, often not even recycled when some can be. Perhaps there are financial incentives, provincial, that can be set in place when protocols can be lightened to pre-COVID times. This could be discounts, financial incentives for productions to recycle, etc. And this comes from Michelle Beza. Thank you so much, Michelle, for raising this question. We are looking into all opportunities for funding across all levels of government, and are working quite actively, certainly with all of the municipal governments. In Ontario, we actually meet with them on a weekly basis to talk about film production issues, but we've raised this at that table to understand what municipal opportunities there are. And we've also been in conversation with some federal leaders as well on this topic. So more information to come on that. And then the second question was from Beth Nobes. The question was, to be an ambassador, is it just your union or organization that's required to be on the advisory committee, or does the candidate have to actually be sitting on the committee? And no, you do not have to have representation on the advisory committee or have a union be part of that committee to be an ambassador of this program. Okay, over to you, Cynthia.
Actually, I'm sorry if I can just interrupt for just a second. I've just had a note that one of our speakers is going to have to leave a bit earlier, and I'm wondering if we can move the speakers section up first, and then go into the survey results after we speak to our producers.
That's fine with me.
Okay, thanks, Cynthia. I'm just going to promote people over to panelists, and there we go. Justin, if you can help me kind of locate Mona and Mary Jo on the list, that would be great.
Okay, great.
Hello.
Thanks. We've got Mona, and I'm just going to promote Mary Jo. Maybe we can start with,
Hi, Mona.
maybe we can launch into this, Chris, and I'll add the other folks.
Sure. Yeah, we're just getting ready for Mary Jo to join in. So we're really excited to have Marianne Waterhouse join us. Marianne is a two-time Gemini Award-winning producer with a resume that includes over 50 film and television productions. She's a leader in advocating for better practices in the film and TV industry, and she's participating advisory committee member for Ontario Green Screen. Marianne's going to speak shortly after Mary Jo, and we're just waiting to get Mary Jo in. And Mary Jo Winkler is a New York-based film and TV producer. She's currently executive producing on the first season of FX series Why the Last Man Standing. She's a dedicated environmentalist and activist who, through her work as a co-founder and a former co-chair of PGA Green, and she's been was also part of a task force, the greenproductionguide.com, and she's promoting sustainability production practices and climate messaging through storytelling. And Mary Jo is joining us in her car on survey. So thank you very much for joining us. And Mary Jo, I'll let you start off, and Mona will jump in right afterwards.
Yeah, hi everyone. Chris, thank you so much for inviting me. And apologies to everyone that I can't stay long. I'm actually in the middle of a director scout for our show. But, you know, Chris had contacted me to just sort of ask, you know, talk to me about how I got started and sort of what are some of the sort of, you know, key tenets in terms of approaching sustainability in film and television. And I will give you a quick snapshot. I started filming, greening film sets in 2003 out of sheer frustration of, you know, where of the waste in our industry. And as a producer, you know, had my own personal epiphany, but also woke up in the middle of the night one night and said, you know, I'm doing all these things at home to be more mindful. How do I bring this to work? And I literally went line by line through a budget that I was working on and just started making notes about every department. And from on that film went to the filmmakers, to the director and his producing partner, to sort of approach them about being more environmentally minded. And they loved the idea. I then, you know, started messaging and talking to the crew about it, and everybody was on board. And just that communication early on became very, very important. From that project forward, I just kept trying to raise the bar and do better and better. And in 2008, ran into a colleague and fellow producer who, and told her what I was doing in New York. And she, said, well, let's start a committee. And we started a committee with the Producers Guild of America, and literally started with the top 20 things you could do on your film set to be more green. And I was then approached by an environmental company to do a pilot program on a film that I did called Away We Go with Sam Mendes. And essentially this company was there, it was a pilot program to study our habits and to understand what the opportunities were for sustainability on a film set. And from that project, we were the first project to calculate our carbon, and we tested out a lot of, I think we were one of the first projects to get rid of single-use water bottles, implement biodiesel, alternative fuels, and really take a hard look at and study, you know, our waste and how we used resources, and did a third-party verified carbon calculation. From there, that we did a sustainability report, and that report went on to the desks of all the heads of physical production at all the major studios. And from there, we were the PGA was approached to partner to create tools for the industry, and the Green Production Guide was born. So greenproductionguide.com is something that was born out of those relationships. and super proud of that effort. And, you know, from 2003 forward, I have spent my career line producing and now executive producing, creative producing, and really promoting sustainability at every turn. And the biggest piece of advice, and I'm going to let Mona Ruff, who is working with me on Why the Last Man, will talk more about sort of the specifics of what we're doing on our show. I would just, you know, the biggest piece of advice I have for anyone who is trying to implement sustainability is to start early, to, you know, talk to the filmmakers, talk to the studio. A lot of studios now are supporting sustainability and mandating sustainability. Start the conversation early, before even, you know, if you can, before you open a production office, start that conversation, get your team together, and utilize the tools that are available to you on Ontario Creates, on Ontario Green Screen. Go to the greenproductionguide.com. We're all essentially, you know, saying the same thing. Set your goals for your production and get galvanize your crew and galvanize your filmmakers, and get that conversation going early. Talk to your department heads. Don't try to spring it on a film production 2 weeks before shooting. It never works. And you know, and if you can't, and the most important thing is to figure out a way to measure and to look at your waste, look at transportation, look at water usage. Those are sort of the three key things that are super important in terms of reducing your footprint. And think about, you know, not putting things in the landfill. Think about your, you know, that's a really important thing to think about. And the other thing is, measure it. Use the tools that are available. Use Albert. Use the carbon calculator on the Green Production Guide. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. I could go on and on and on about this, but I do need to go join my director at our location. I'm going to turn it over to Mona to sort of give you guys, you know, a snapshot of what we're doing on why. Really appreciate everybody gathering. It's super important. I'm super excited for Toronto to kind of, you know, I think in the film industry, trends are really big. And I think once one production does it and gets good at it, other productions can follow suit, and we can all learn from each other. So again, thank you so much. And you know, what else can I say? Thank you. And I'll turn it over to Mona. Thanks so much.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, take care.
Bye, Major.
Bye.
Hi, can everyone hear me? Sorry, I'm unmuted.
Yes,
yep, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Sorry, I'm bad with technology. I'm just going to make this quick because I know we don't have a lot of time. So we follow the Green Production Guide, and I would encourage everyone to go to thegreenproductionguide.com. There is, in the toolkit there is a space called Best Practices Infographics. And these are basically visual guides that can show you sustainable production practices that you can use in your offices, on location, and in the construction areas and stages. So just very quickly, briefly, some of the things that we are implementing, we've gone paperless. Like, we've basically eliminated a lot of paper use just by distributing all of our memos, our call sheets, things of that nature electronically to all the different departments. So that wall of like production stuff is kind of eliminated. One of the big things that we've set up is construction waste recycling. So we were finding that a lot of our building materials were being thrown into the landfill, which is horrible. And so, I mean, I think we need a separate meeting at some point to kind of talk about infrastructure and places that are available to recycle and do the things that we're trying to accomplish. But for the most part, we did figure out how to do that. And the thing I want to stress the most, I think the thing I get complimented on the most, the thing that I get talked to about the most, the things that people are hearing about the most are the waste stations that we've set up on location and in our offices and all around our production areas. We basically have a bin that collects landfill and one that collects recycling, which everyone is pretty much used to seeing. We've also started collecting our compost. And we also have a separate bin to collect PPE and personal protective equipment that is, because of COVID, being generated at a very alarming rate. And so we've basically been collecting those things, sorting those things, we've been tracking those things, weighing those things. It's a big deal. We've run into challenges, but we have overcome many of them, and we probably, again, like I said, I think there should be a separate meeting to talk about how we can do this better. But yeah, the sorting of the waste, and to train our crews to think about their waste not just as landfill, but as separate components that can be further processed in a more environmentally friendly way. I think that's one of the main things that we do for best practices. I don't know if that's, I don't know if we've got time for more, but.
That's great. Thank you so much, Mona. That's really, really, really fantastic. And I think just having those tactical ideas of how you can implement this on set really kind of helps people know how they can make a significant change.
Sorry, and we are sourcing out more compostables as well. So we find that the more that we just kind of eliminate our single-use plastics on set and on location and in the offices, that's a great step forward. And I'm going to link some vendors we've been working with later. Sorry. Okay, thanks.
Fantastic.
No, thank you so much, Mona. And you know, we do have one, well, actually 2 questions that just came through that I think you could field, and Marianne, feel free to field this as well. The first question was, how are you considering reducing fuel usage on set from gas, diesel generators, using battery tech, etc.?
Well, on why we generally, sorry, let me just close this off. We've been using a lot of LED lights that are plugged into battery packs. So that has reduced a lot of the generator use that we were using. We also, production also rents a lot of hybrid vehicles to further reduce fuel consumption. I'm trying to think of, because we're doing so much of it. Like, I'm just trying to remember all the things that we are doing, but those are the main ones, I think. And we just idling as well. I'm terrible for telling people, but I don't feel bad about it. I always tell people to turn off their cars. I'm like, please, you don't need it. It's warm outside. You don't need the air conditioning. Open up the windows, things like that. But yeah, I'm not sure what's going to happen in the winter time though, when you need that heat. So.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you so much. And I'm going to save the second question for after Marianne speaks, so that you can probably both field that question in tandem. So over to you, to Marianne.
Great. Well, maybe I can ask a question to Marianne
okay.
as she kind of moves into her question. So my question was, like, how has your approach to sustainability been impacted over the last 10 months or so, based on what's happening with COVID, and how have you kind of adapted to those current changes?
Thanks so much, Chris, and Justin also. And that was awesome hearing everything that you guys are doing over there, Mona. And thank you for that question, Chris, because I think that's a really, really important thing to talk about. Now, you will see there's another face in my background here. Haley is our sustainability coordinator on Nightbook, so I asked her to join. So we've masked up because we're both in this office together. So I'm gonna chat for a bit, and then I'm going to let Haley give a little quick summary of sort of what we've accomplished. I think I'm going to pull authority me now, that it's such an important question, because the thing is that what happened to us, and we started up in, I think when most of the shows did in the summer, when we got the approval for our industry to restart. And at that time, we had, 25-page policies of how to keep everybody safe, and all of this stuff, and one of the biggest changes being in areas like catering and craft service. And it really truly seemed like for now, all bets are off about sustainability, right? Like, we have to keep people safe. That is the priority. That's the #1 priority. It's great that people aren't flying as much. Maybe that'll make up for it. Let's just keep everybody safe. And we I think, like all the shows, started out that way, and it kind of seemed like we couldn't do, some of the things that in 2019 we had made massive strides with, getting rid of single-use plastics, getting rid of black plastic that's non-recyclable. All of that stuff was back. And then our craft service in the production office, because it's the only way that people felt safe, was entirely like cookies in little single wrappers, crackers in little single wrappers, like no big box of crackers anymore, like every single thing packaged. And you know, that was just the start of it, because as soon as we started having lunch, and then we started shooting, by day 2, it was horrifying to me. Not only the amount of single-use containers that were going into the garbage, because people didn't have a way to clean them off, even if parts of them were recyclable, and a lot of them were black plastic, because somehow apparently that keeps things warmer. But in addition to that, the food was being wasted. Like, there was massive amounts of food ending up in the garbage, or maybe in our, I mean, we have all of the practices you talked about, Mona. That's all what we, you know, we had our green bins, our organics bins, but you know, we couldn't even do some of the food rescue that we had been doing back in 2019, because, you know, it was all in single-use containers. And as soon as someone opens it and goes, ooh, I don't want that, well, that food's gone. So it was, you know, probably as, you know, wake up call devastating as what, you know, as what we were talking about earlier here. Like, I was like, we can't keep doing this. So, and it felt like we were trapped. And then this is kind of the most, you know, inspiring thing I want to say is we're not trapped, because we are in this business. We're solution, you know, we're creative minds. We come up with solutions, and we did. We started with our breakfast. That was the first one we did it with. And we set up a plexi system we went back to our breakfast buffet, except that it wasn't one where you could take your own breakfast. The craft service people stood behind plexi barriers. They put it out. It's a full plexi enclosure. And at the end of it, there's a little slot where your food comes out. And we did that for a couple of days on breakfast, and it worked so great. We're like, let's do this for lunch. And we had this massive, and I can put a picture of it. I don't have a way to share my screen, I don't think, but I can put it in the chat or something maybe. We have a massive thing that we take with it from studio. We take it to location. It's about, Haley, how long is it? Like 40 feet long? Yeah. Yeah, 50 feet long. Massive plexi that our entire lunch buffet is. Haley got us compostable everything, right? Compostable containers, compostable cutlery. And now people have choice in their food, so they're not wasting it. They're taking the food that they want. What food, and there's not a single bit of single-use packaging involved at all. And we can, you know, the food that's not used is going to feed it forward. So we're doing our food rescue. So, you know, and that was an area that we thought we could do nothing about, and we turned it around 180 degrees back to a completely green, completely, you know, it's all organics and food rescue. So, I mean, I'd love other shows to do that same thing. You know, so I'd love to share the picture. And once you get this thing built once, you've got it for the whole show. And, you know, once we finish with our show, some other show can have it. So, you know, there's a bit of a startup cost to build this plexi thing, but once you've got it, you're good. And I think that's one very specific thing that everybody can do. And I also think that it just goes to prove that we can innovate. You know, we don't have to be stopped by this thing. We can be safe and also still be sustainable. So I'm going to let Haley say a little bit about, you know, because she's accomplished a lot. I know we probably don't have a lot of time, but
yeah,
a minute.
I can just quickly say a lot of the things that Mona has been doing, we've been doing here as well, having like different bins for sorting. We've gotten to the point now where we pretty much have a whole bag of our food goes straight into the compost. At the beginning, I was having to do some kinds of like rewards to get people to sort properly, like literally standing there with candy being like, if you do it properly, you get candy. And so I think the best thing has been just communicating with everybody as much as possible. We did a newsletter and we got a couple logoed hats that people are working really hard to get. And so they'll nominate each other depending on what they've done to help with sustainability around the production. And one person or two people a week will get a hat as well. And it actually really has helped. A lot of people are doing their best now, and people are starting to focus on like breaking the loops of their masks so it doesn't get taken by animals. Like, because there was a horrific photo of a duck that had like a mask around its neck. So stuff like that. So everybody's taking initiative now at this point. We've also gotten to the point, obviously, where we're donating our food as well. So all of the buffet food goes to an organization called Feed It Forward. They reuse it in another buffet to help the homeless. And we are using food rescue as well. Anything that's untouched can be picked up by any nonprofit. It's kind of like Uber for food donations. So they can come pick it up as they need to. And despite all of the COVID challenges we've had, we've still maintained a 63% waste diversion rate despite COVID, which was a big improvement from the beginning when we were unsure what we could do, when everything was covered in plastic. So now we've more than doubled our waste diversion rate. And our goal is to get to 80%, because 80% of things on production are able to be diverted from the landfill. So we're just focusing now on all the regular things now that COVID is kind of like out of the way in a sense, in the way that we're managing our production.
Thank
Great.
you. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you
Thanks
so
very
much
much, Haley.
for those overviews. And you know, we do have so many questions that are being asked, which is really great. It's good to see so much engagement. Although I am really mindful of the time right now, and I do want to make sure that Cynthia has an opportunity to talk about those questions. We have booked this call until 2:30. So I'm not sure, Marianne, Mona, folks, if you guys are allowed to, are you able to stay around for a few more minutes after 2 p.m. to answer questions? Yeah. Okay, great.
Okay,
if you are, great. If not, we understand. So we're going to go over to Cynthia next to give an overview of our poll.
Thanks, Justin and Chris. And I'm regretting changing the order in the agenda now, because now I have to go after that super interesting stuff with a bunch of numbers. And my cat has noticed that I'm on a Zoom, so she will make an appearance momentarily, I'm sure. So just to remind everyone, I think I know a lot of you, but my name is Cynthia Lynch. I'm Managing Director and Counsel at Film Ontario. We are a not-for-profit industry organization that represents producers, labor organizations, equipment suppliers, other service providers, and studios in the province. I just want to say thank you to everyone who filled out the survey. We had, based on the number of people who registered, we had about a 20% response rate, and that's pretty good for a survey, but we could do better, and that's why we will continue to keep the lines of communication open between the advisory committee and the community as a whole. That's why this is just the first community meeting, and we look forward to many more. And Justin touched on this a bit at the beginning, but you know, bringing about substantive and lasting change requires collaboration. And that's something we're really good at as an industry, and certainly something we've demonstrated over the past few months as we deal with the pandemic. And I know that a lot of people have put suggestions in the chat and in the Q&A that mirror some of the questions that we asked in the survey. So that is great, and we will incorporate all of those. Basically, an overview of who filled out the survey. So our goal as an advisory committee is to engage as many people as we can all across the province. The people who filled out the survey, about 70% of them indicated that they work sort of in and around Toronto, including Durham and Hamilton. Just under 10% said they were in Northern Ontario, and we had one person from Ottawa, so hello, Ottawa. In addition, several people just said they worked in Ontario as a whole, and then also work in other jurisdictions, including BC. The great news is that people indicated that they work in all areas of the industry across all departments, and sometimes in more than one role, as we've all done. So including costume, construction, transport, performers, camera, and locations. But the largest single category at 15% of the responses was producers. So this is great because sustainability is a statewide project and needs advocates in every department. So the first question we asked people was, it was a multiple choice, and we asked people what key action could have the greatest impact in sustainability. And it was almost a tie for the top two. So the top two were reusing set materials as much as possible, and something that's come up several times already today, finding alternative power solutions other than fossil fuels. So together, those accounted for 77% of the responses. And surprising to me, only one person selected reducing food waste and or red meat consumption, and 20% of people selected eliminating single-use plastics. So I think it's no surprise that people identified tackling some of the, what we would say the biggest issues are the ones that would have the most impact. And it is definitely ambitious to tackle those problems, but I think that we've heard how some of that can be done. The next question was a bit more open-ended, but we did want to drill down and ask people what they could do on their own sets, and that produced some interesting answers, which I have paraphrased a bit. And sort of the opposite of the answer to the previous question, the most common answer of what people thought they could do at the individual level was reducing food waste and eliminating single-use plastics. In fact, it was more than half of the suggestions in this answer. And if I were a true researcher, I would want to follow up with these people and interview them. But I think that this speaks to the fact that individuals are really looking at what they can do on a daily basis. And that is sort of reflects the difference in the two questions because the individual actions can add up to some of that big impact. And then some of the other answers to this question included eco-friendly power supplies, less idling, reusing set pieces, and more training, all things that have come up today. And then the other two answers that stuck out for me was the importance of having a green steward on set, which again, we've just been talking about, and the idea that productions just need to have more accountability overall. So that's important ideas that will inform some of our work going forward. The next question we asked was for respondents to pick one thing, and again, this was a multiple choice, that would best engage the industry in adopting sustainable film production. And the answers were split a bit more widely in this one, but not surprisingly, financial incentives were the most popular choice at 32.5%, but having a sustainability producer, supervisor, or PA on set was a close second at 30%. And the other two answers were education, training, and championing. So, and mandated policies, procedures were sort of almost evenly split between the rest of the respondents. And again, I think this shows that there is not just one single solution that will solve everything. We will need to have a suite of approaches that some of which will be easier to implement than others, and some of which, you know, the Ontario Green Screen has authority over and some doesn't, but the whole package will be needed to make a difference. Then the sad questions. So we asked people how often sustainability is discussed, practiced, and implemented in your department. And only one person said it was always discussed, practiced, and implemented. And 75% of respondents said seldom or never. So this tells us as an advisory committee, we have our work cut out for us. It highlights the need to develop effective communication tools and find those advocates across all parts of the industry who will promote sustainable practices and turn them into ODS ambassadors. Excuse me. So the last question was another open-ended one. It just talked about what could be done in the era of COVID. So thank you, Marianne, for providing all of those examples, but there were also a lot of good ideas in this answer. The far and away, the most dominant theme that came through was the need to find more and better ways of recycling PPE and the increased food packaging, as well as other new materials, and as well as the need to train people on what those practices are. So what are we going to do with all this? This gave us, as an advisory committee, the opportunity to test what we have already been thinking about. Are we on the right track? I think we're pretty good, I will say. And this will inform the continued development of our strategic plan that we talked about earlier. So once we have a program manager in place, we will move full speed ahead on a strat plan, which will include setting achievable goals, drilling down, and sort of figuring out when we can implement some of these things. And as I said at the beginning, the communication loop is ongoing. So please stay in touch and continue to participate in these meetings. So Chris, I don't know if you want to do the poll now or if you want to do questions first.
Maybe we could put the poll up and we can start going through some questions at the same time.
Okay, so we did want to do a quick live poll to sort of supplement some of our surveying. And this is a question about what type of resources and topics you and the community would like to learn about. So we picked 5: alternative power solutions, climate science, waste reduction, diversion on set, hybrid and electric alternatives to transportation and changes in food choices. And everyone, I can see people voting, which is awesome, but please keep voting while Chris keeps this open.
Polls will be open for the next 10 minutes.
Or 30 seconds.
Or 30 seconds. Yeah, thank you so much, Cynthia. I really appreciate it. It's really great to get a sense of what everybody was thinking and how we can roll that up and how it relates to our strategic vision. And all of that information will be discussed at length with the advisory committee when we meet next, and it will be kind of rolled into what we're planning. So thank you, everybody. So we're 6 minutes over, but we do have a lot of questions that are coming through. So I just wanted to start maybe going through some of those questions. And so the first question that I see is it economically viable to switch to a more green production? Is the increase in recyclability and sustainability really is it really affordable for smaller student productions? Is there anybody that in the panel that wants to dive into that question? And we can all bring up our videos if we'd like.
So I will leave this to one of the producers, but I would think that I think the answer is yes. And one of the things that as a team we're hoping to develop is some of that cost benefit analysis that producers can have at their fingertips. So that is something that the committee is working on.
Great. Okay. The next question.
Sorry, I just to that, I know that I unfortunately, I don't think that there are enough resources to allow for smaller productions in Toronto to achieve sustainability. Sorry, what I mean is like, because there are places in like New York City and so on where you can go and get materials that have already been used and you can upcycle them. There are catering services that are already packing things up individually. I don't know how much COVID has affected this, but there are, if you look online, there are student productions and independent productions that are posting how they've been able to be sustainable, and they can actually show you the waste that they've produced in like 3 or 4 little glass jars, so that's all that ended up going into landfill. So there are smaller groups that are doing that. You can just look online for sustainable small production, and I'm sure there's some resources and stuff there. Sorry, just adding that in.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mona and Cynthia. So I've ended the poll, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the results of the poll with everybody right now, and then we'll go on to the next question once you can all see the results of the poll. So clearly, alternative power solutions is one of the key things that people want to learn more about. So this is all really important information for us that we can kind of take back to the advisory committee and help inform how we're going to move forward in the next 12 months with any additional training resources. Okay, so I'm going to stop that. So the next question that we had in the Q&A was how do you recycle your PPE? So is there a practical way of doing this? Are there service providers out there, vendors that are allowing this? Can somebody jump in on that?
Marianne, did you want to?
Sure, I'll speak for this part. We've been doing TerraCycle for some of our recycling of PPE. They will take a lot of things, and they'll take ink cartridges, they'll take batteries, they'll take a lot of things. They will take PPE. It is just very expensive. So each box costs about like $200 of PPE to recycle, which is expensive. I know there is a way of also doing energy capturing where they like incinerate PPE and capture the energy from that as well.
That's what we're doing. We're currently using Citron Hygiene, and they basically provide us with bins, and then they come and service them depending on our service schedule. And then they will take the materials and take them to a facility that captures and turns waste to energy.
Great. Okay, thank you. So the next question is, can anybody talk about successes tying into the grid while filming in Ontario? And does anybody have any experience in grid tie-ins?
We've been tying into the grid because we're right in studio, so it's been really easy to just tie into the grids that we're in. So we've only needed to use generators for 2 days when we've been off-site.
Oh, that's great. When you've been offsite, has there been opportunities to tie into the grid when you're on location?
We were in like a park, like a natural park in the middle of nowhere, so there wasn't really, unfortunately, but it would be great if we could. But we have been for most of our production.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you. The next question is, these are great discussions. Are there possible initiatives for upcycling, sharing production materials with other productions or to the community to reuse?
Yes,
I guess.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Haley.
There is a website we've been using called Ready, Set, Recycle. You can take photos of anything that you're not using anymore and people will come pick it up. We've done it with our paint already and we will continue as we keep going. We've had some props as well to donate. Habitat for Humanity Restore, though, does like to take things that they can use when possible. But Ready, Set, Recycle is great. Everybody likes to take stuff from there.
I think they were listed on the Ontario Creeks or the Green Screenery. Yeah, I would look into them. We're in the process of, like, we just finished our pilot, so we're going into series. So that's something we're looking forward to, and like the donations in the future. So that's good.
Yeah. And one of the things that we're doing as Ontario Green Screen is we're doing some investigation about a sustainable lockup that would be kind of a permanent lockup for studios to, or for productions to kind of donate their flats and whatever construction materials might be useful to other productions. So that's something that we'll be looking at in the next 12 months. And Haley, next question is for you directly. So how are you assessing diversion?
So for our compost, they take like our compost, our ink cartridges, Paper Savers like does a lot of that stuff for us, and they send us a weekly slip with what has been taken. So like they'll let me know what that is. I put that into a waste diversion report and send it to our garbage and recycling vendor. And then they send me back a report with like how many trees have been saved, they tell me exactly what our waste diversion rate is. And our waste diversion people are Waste Co. So they do that for us.
Okay, great, thank you. So the next question is rather lengthy, so I'll just read it out. So to attain advanced sustainability, it would involve the way that we actually create productions, such as using LiDAR models for scouts instead of sending people previs to reduce set construction, not seen on set, derived from the previs, having mutually used infrastructure, building it into studios beyond the empty box suppliers that studios now use, and that would save carbon and actual production time. Having already used those practices in productions I've done, and I wonder if others have explored these options. Also, the green production that would buy into this would be green that goes into the wallet. Fair enough. So does anybody have any thoughts? It's more of a comment than a question, but do you have any thoughts on this person's question?
I think maybe just coming into it with a green perspective, like already looking to take things that are going to be donated, like from Ready, Set, Recycle, and seeing how you can use that in your set instead of building from scratch, like just trying to get every department head on board, and then maybe that could translate into having like a totally green production, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And there's a number of studios that are currently under construction right now. So I'm sure that those studios are kind of utilizing the best practices and the greenest technologies in order to build them out. So once those studios are online, then that will have an impact as well.
I know that there's been talk of circular construction, like from a pre-build to strike. I think I'm sorry, I'm going blank, but I know that there was I think it was done through Green Spark Group. I think did one recently. So that's one worth checking out.
Yeah, and there was a report that was sent that was released from Albert called Screen a New Deal, which is the UK's vision to go net zero by 2025, and their whole idea about going net zero is it's a circular economy kind of perspective, and build to deconstruct, not build to throw away. Right. So, that's a really good way of kind of thinking about it and kind of planning your construction. It's a bit more planning on the front end, but, you're not putting things into landfill at the back end of production.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was those were the ends. Oh, we have another question. So I've heard from people working in locations that many productions put out their recycling bins and collect recycling on set, but then they just end up getting put into the garbage. Are there any efforts to actually recycle the recyclables on set?
Could I answer that one, please?
Absolutely, Mona.
Okay, so that's one of the main challenges that I found when we were on location. We were trying to find someone that could take our recycling and compost and ensure that it wouldn't go into the landfill. Because unfortunately, I mean, I don't know, but I've been hearing from a lot of people that that's what happens, is that things get sorted, but then it all ends up in the same place. So we actually found a gentleman by the name of Shane Harper, who works, who runs Rethink Resource. And Shane came every single night that we were on location. One of the main problems is trying to find someone who can work within a production schedule, come in at like 2 in the morning after you finish shooting, or at 4 in the morning after you finish shooting, and take your waste, because sometimes you can't just leave it there overnight until 6 or 7, 9 a.m. or whatever. And so he came and he hand bombed everything, and he's actually in the process of providing us his data reporting. He's gone and sorted all of our materials. He's weighed them, and he's seen exactly what our contamination rates are, what kind of stuff that we can improve on, what kind of things that we are doing right, the things that we're doing wrong. So yeah, it is a challenge, but you have to specifically find someone that can do that service for you. Because I don't think there's a shortage of people who are willing to take your waste. I think the problem comes into, well, what are you going to do with it afterwards? So it's great that it gets taken, but where does it end up? How do we measure it? How is it being traced? LEED certification and all of that is just something that's new to a lot of disposal companies. So it's starting, but it's not there yet. It's not something that's considered a lot of the time. So there's really just no need for it. And so, yeah, the short answer is you need to find somebody that will do that and ensure that they're doing that and not just tossing it into the landfill.
Great. Yes. Haley, do you have anything to add to that?
I've heard really good things about Rethink Resource as well, or Rethink Recycle. Yeah.
I'm going to plug him right now. Shane, I know you're watching.
No, I know he's amazing, because you can get everything taken to Belleville, where they sort things more like
like actually
properly than in Toronto,
and not just incinerating it, or we're using him to help our construction recycling at the moment. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but I was having a hard time finding any waste company in Toronto that was recycling construction waste. We're actually having to transport it out to Hamilton to get it done there. And I know that everyone was like, well, how does that save on emissions? And how does that, how is that sustainable? But if you look at the alternative, I mean, you're basically going to be chucking everything into the landfill, creating methane emissions, and that's worse than CO2. And you have to really weigh all these things when you make your choices, and it is difficult. It's not an easy task. But I'm so excited that this is happening, because I mean, one of the things that we get, honestly, crews, cast, background people have come up to me, because I actually sort, I wish I had the reward program set up early, but I basically am standing there with a pair of gloves, and I mean, COVID be damned, I'm like sorting the materials, and people are watching this happen. And that's one of the things that we're hearing a lot of, is that, thank you for actually sorting this stuff. Like, this needs to happen. We've been on so many productions. I've been in this business for 20 years, and I've never seen anybody sort garbage or set up bins for that to happen. And so I know it's welcome. I know it's something that people actually want, and I think it's definitely going to happen, and we need to be prepared for it to happen. So this is great, and I think sharing resources and discussing it amongst ourselves and just really implementing that infrastructure is really what's going to get us there, because it happens other places in the world, and there's no reason why we can't do it in the GTA, where we've got 50 productions a year for how many years, sorry, I'm just
yeah, time has come.
Yeah. Just hate garbage.
Yeah. Well, I really want to thank all of you for giving your feedback and taking all these questions. Honestly, the information is so valuable. Just in the interest of time, we have gone over quite a lot, and I just want to make sure that we have a minute or so just to sum things up. I hope all the participants that are still on the call, all 83 of you, wow, so many people have stuck around, have been able to take away a good sense of where we're moving as an initiative. And also that there are programs that you can take part in through this initiative right now. I also want to just remind everyone that the ITQ for the program manager for this initiative is open at the moment, and that our Strat Plan is under development. And we will have a meeting when that Strat Plan is finalized in the new year so that you can all really get a good sense of exactly how we're moving forward and how you can all make a difference. We will also incorporate all of the survey results that we received that Cynthia presented in the deck that Chris presented earlier. So they have that as one package, and we'll send that out to all participants in the near future. So, again, you have that background and information for what we're doing. I think that concludes things. I do want to thank everyone again for participating, attending, presenting, and I hope you all have a fantastic weekend. Thanks very much.